we had a good day in the market today, which you're probably looking and saying, how can we lose 8% and have a good day in the market? Well, um, we're not the typical investors, so we are not looking for today's gain to be the end all. So one of the things we noticed today is basically the Fed chairman decided to stick his nose in the market, and he basically said, you better, in so many words, he basically said to the government, you basically better get your act together, otherwise some of the negative stuff we see in the market is going to be permanent. So, he kind of gave a little tongue lashing to the politicians. So the market reacted, as we can kind of see here, and went, holy crap, this isn't good. And then, of course, logic takes over, and it goes up a little bit, it goes up a little bit, and after hours, it's been going up a little bit. So, and I think part of it goes into, will the politicians pass a new bill? And the Democrats basically just put a bill up that the Republicans just kind of laughed and either threw in the trash or burned. I mean, it was just, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, that's what happened. So anyway, we took a bunch of price drops today. So we're going to take a look at those today. For the most part, there weren't any massive losers. There were a couple that gained. So Viking gained today, not much, but that was one of the rare gains today. Bitcoin is going up, and we might look at Bitcoin at some point, but it's gone up from like 5,800 to 9,500. So we're not buying high. With that being said, Texas Hospitality, which basically does hospitality services and residences for oil workers in West Texas, went up a little bit today, which is really odd because a lot of the oil went down. RHP, which is a REIT, went down 12%, and we'll look at that. And then TRTX went down 14.5%, but everything else was like 5 to 6% on average. So if we look at RHP, so we have basically, we'll pull these up. These are the three that went down the most today: Helix, RHP, and TRTX. So we basically plugged in all the end of day prices sorted by upside, and Helix, RHP, and TRTX have been moving up. And you see, we used to only have one or two that was over 5 other than UCO, but now we have 2 over 6 and 3 over 5, and 4 of them kind of hovering, 3 or 4 of them, 3 of them kind of hovering near 5. So with that being said, Helix has a 50%, 56% buy, RHP has 59, and TRTX has a 67. I'll probably look at TRTX tomorrow and see what it does. If it goes down, I'll probably take a deep look at it. But these two are a little bit low. They're not green, which means they're not automatic buys. And Helix is one that I'm looking at, so I might look at that one as well. So we'll yellow this one out, and we'll clear this one out. So with that being said, we want to take advantage of the low prices. Basically, the market's never going to move a ton either way, and if it moved down by 600 points today, then, yeah, what did it go down today? It went down 516 points. So it's either going to go down a little bit or it's going to go up. So we'll take a look at that when we go to the Dow futures. So with that being said, our holdings, we have our original 3 are down. Ikagi's an airline based on Brazil, but they're expecting a buyout, or not a buyout, they're expecting some stimulus from the government, some bailout cash, that's the word I was looking for. But it's not going to be the initial amount they asked for. I think they said it was like they're giving to all the Brazilian airlines, they're giving half of what they all asked for. So, but at least they're getting bailout money. So I expect this one to bump up at some point in the near future and go positive. Dave & Buster's, I think there's just some negative sentiment on that, only because it's like the market's like, all right, well, how do we do social distancing in Dave & Buster's? And I'm sure they will. They'll probably space things out. They can totally do that. But, the idea of doing cleaning on those in Dave & Buster's when you're going from game to game to game, it's going to be a little bit of a hard sell in the near future. So I think that one's going to lag. But this one's been up and down, so we could easily see that bump back up. And it has a 9% buy, which kind of reflects kind of what we're talking about. And again, we have all of these, except for Ikagi, we have basically American, United, and Dave & Buster's on limit order sells. So when they bump back up, we'll be looking to do that. Of the ones that probably have the best numbers from a financial standpoint is United Airlines, just from a liquidity standpoint and their preparation. They're probably best suited to do that. So we might buy some more of this stock and lower our cost basis. But we're not doing that today. It's not really the time to do that. Every, this is the one that does cash services and ATMs for casinos. They're headquartered in Vegas, and they have a 100% buy rate. I did some reading on them today, and everybody's still really bullish on them. So this one's set to explode, and we have a big, big equity stake in them right now for what we're doing. So this one is going to explode at some point. So we may buy this again. I just can't imagine buying even more and having that big of a stake, but we'll see. We might do that again. Beyond that, Red Rock Resort, that's going to pair up with Every, and I think that's one just fell a little bit because we have, people are like, dude, are you going to open up or what? Like, when are these casinos going to open up? But if you look at Las Vegas, they're so heavily dependent on the Strip that, and Nevada, I think, what is it? Nevada's like 80% or 90% of their economy is Las Vegas. So at some point in time, there's going to be a push either by business leaders or people who are giving donations to politicians that are like, listen, we're not going to support you anymore unless you get things moving. And with the Raiders coming into town to start off their season in September, and they're probably not going to be fans, but we're looking at sports betting and all the other things that go with it, and people are just having a pent-up demand and itch to get out. Las Vegas is definitely going to be one that I think when it goes up, you're going to see Red Rock Resorts and Every explode. So particularly Every. Azul, that's another Brazilian airline. And actually, ICAGI, I take it back. Azul was the the Brazilian airline that we talked about before. ICAGI is the one in Europe. And they're all just regional airlines in Europe for the most part, except for British Airways. So they have an 87% buy rate. So this one's going to go up as well. They're the market leader in Europe. This is the biggest airline in Europe, and Lufthansa is number 2. Beyond that, we're doing really good. Crestwood Equity is still at about 100. Braemar Resorts is about 78. And again, they're just lagging until we start to see hotels open up. And I think the big sentiment here is that people don't know when phase 3 is going to hit for these states. And the investors are just getting impatient. And you got to remember, a lot of these investors, at least the brokers and the big institutional brokerages, are in New York. So they're kind of having some localitis, I would imagine. Beyond that, Yuko is doing pretty decent. It's holding still for the time being, but as we start to see the oil prices go up because of increased demand, because people are driving more and more things are opening up, and you're going to see a pent-up demand to actually do some road trips at some point, you're going to see that go up. So I'm not in a rush to see this one go up, but at some point you're going to see this start to really bump. And we're going to look at some point for this to break the 20. When it breaks 20, I think that's going to be a big sign of kind of things to come. So with that being said, we decided to do some limit orders today. So we did a limit order of Velocity Financial. So they just gave their number. They just gave their quarterly earnings this past week. And I mean, they're really well positioned. I don't want to get into like a finance wonk type of a conversation, but they're really well positioned. A lot of their loans are low LTV loans, meaning it's like 50, 60% LTV. These are people that they're not going to walk away from their house and just stop paying it because they have a huge chunk of equity. So these people are in a really good spot, and they're pretty well positioned. I looked at some of without getting into huge details, I looked into kind of how they shift their numbers and what they're investing in, and they're in a really good position. So that's why I put this light green, because they're not getting 100% buy rate where you're going to put it hard green here, but enough where I wanted to take a look at that and get some, and they're poked over 5 on the upside. So I decided, okay, I'll just put a decent stake in it. Velocity Financial at $1,100 at $275 a share. Currently it's at $290. So if it goes down, we'll take a look at that. I'll show you each chart as we're looking at that. So let's go Velocity, Menlo, and RWT. All right, so Velocity, took a look over the last month. Let's go 3 months. So this is where we went down, and you can see these big spikes here. It's itching to go up, and here's our bottom of the market, and you see these little bumps here. I mean, most everything's super flat, so this is bumping. This is itching to go up. So as we go to the week, it dropped down to 258, and I don't think it's going to go there, and then went up and went down back to 271. So I thought, okay, well, if that's the case, we're going to put a limit order in at where's velocity? There it is, at 275. If it gets anywhere near there, we'll get that, and then we'll lock in the low price. The next one we did was RWT, which was Redwood Trust. And this one, if we look at Redwood Trust, we already have $1,000 in it right now. 67% buy recommendation, which is pretty good. And it's one of our better performing stocks that we have so far. The cost basis is 250, and I know I'm breaking one of my rules. If it goes up, if basically we set a limit order, if it goes down to 340, we'll put a buy. It's at 358 right now, and I know that raises our limit order thing, but it's a good stock, and it's been a good performer, and they basically do they're a REIT, so it's worth it. It's worth a good, for a 67% buy rate and an upside of over 5. It's definitely something that we're looking at. So, and particularly if we go to this one over 3 months, it's like the same pattern as the other one. It went down to our bottom, begging to go up, knocked back down, begging to go up, knocked back down. And we start to see the same pattern as we saw with velocity. But then the Fed chairman had us take a hit right here. And so we are basically going to, what was this at, 340? So it doesn't have to go all the way down, but if it gets anywhere near there, then we'll fill it. It started to go down to 350. We'll see if it goes down or not. This might be a little bit harder to fill, which is fine. If it doesn't fill, then there's no skin off my back. The next one is Menlo. So let's see, this one is, if we look at Menlo, the upside isn't as high, but it's 100% buy rate, and it's green across the board. And basically, off the target price, it's sitting at 4-1 as an upside. Because their target price is 7, and their February 20th price was 526. So this is really good on an upside. So I actually looked through some of their stuff today, and they basically have a bunch of other drugs that they're going through that they're really high and think are going to get passed. Specifically, there's an acne drug that they think is going to be completely immune to any COVID downturn in the economy. So with that being said, this one, again, went down, and it didn't have the same downward. It didn't go all the way down. So it went down, went up. It's still itching to go up. You see it right here. There's where they had one of the drugs failed. Was it a safety or an efficacy test? I forget which one, but it went down. But since this point where it hit 105, it's been going up steadily. So if we look over the month, it's been going up. If we look over the week, it's doing pretty good. And for whatever reason, it dropped down here to 162, which isn't really much of the 30-cent drop. It's not as big as you think, but it immediately self-corrected up to 178. So this is a little bit of a glitch. And then the Fed chairman stepped in right here. And then today, there's the Fed chairman going down. And then it got down to 162, and it recovered up to 178. So I figured, all right, if we can get it down to 165, then we'll put a limit order in. And that gives us a 3.19 upside, but it's a great, great stock to do. So with that being said, our holdings, basically we're projecting to go up to 177 on our holdings, another 10,000 or 12,500, which puts us at about 190 for about a 518% return. And again, this is a long-term goal. We're not looking to this next week or next month, but over the long term, I mean, it's just crazy not to lock these things in. So with that being said, tomorrow, this was actually down in the red earlier, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe the market's going to go down. But overall, it's pretty dead flat, 0.15, 0.33, 0.07, and these don't necessarily mean anything particularly, but it gives you a sense that, maybe it's not going to go down. We might have just another bottom of the market, U-shaped curve, flat day, which is fine. If some of these just hit a hiccup and we can get them lower, then great. If we get a bump up in the market, great, but I'm not looking at this number or this number or even this number as how we're going to judge what we're doing. Again, we're looking at this number, because when the market goes back up, and it will go back up because we have a non-economic catastrophe, meaning that it's not like, the Great Recession or the dot-com boom where the market just blew itself up. This is something where the government stuck its little paw into the market, but at some point, things are going to return back to normal. And when they do, demand goes up. And when demand goes up, stock prices go up. And when you have a cost basis this low, you're going to be a very, very happy person. So with that being said, this form is as you can access it through a link in our video. You can use it if you want, play with the numbers, steal it if you want, whatever you want. You can check that out as well. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. With that being said, I'll see you then.